Okay, we're going to do a short repotting video here, so I just wanted to show you first what we're working with. We've got a couple of jewel orchids here. These jewel orchids have originally been planted in sphagnum moss. We're going to transfer them to the Terrae mix, which is this one. First thing that I like to do before I start to repot is put on a pair of clean plastic gloves. This is more for the plant's protection than it is your hands, but it does work to keep the dirt from your fingernails as well. So the reason that we're going to do this is because it will help to protect the roots from any kind of bacteria or anything that might be on your hands or on your fingernails or anything like that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently tip this bowl over. Well, these have been in here for a long time, so we don't really know what to expect when we bring these out. So we're just going to kind of gently tip them over, kind of help work them out. Now, jewel orchids don't have roots like most tropical plants do that root wide and deep. Jewel orchids typically have a shorter root system in them. They've got wider roots, so it looks like there was some sort of potting media down underneath these guys. And you're just going to slowly and gently pull this away, and you'll kind of start to notice some of the bigger pieces of media or sphagnum moss, depending on what your orchids are planted in currently. The roots may have attached themselves a little bit, so you just kind of want to gently pull that away. Don't pull too hard if it's on there. Sometimes you can just kind of let it stay. It won't hurt anything. If you're repotting due to health issues, if you have rot, or if you're battling an insect issue or something like that, you may want to do a more thorough job. But if this is simply aesthetic, or maybe you're up potting, don't worry about getting too much of the old media off. Just take off what you see there. So that's typically good there. And you can see how, like I said, jewel orchids don't typically have a very intricate root system. What they will do, though, is they will split and divide off of each other. So if you do want to split up your jewel orchid, this is a good time to do it. And the way, we're not going to split this one up, but the way that you would do that is just right here where this root is coming out, the stem, just pinch that off there. So we're going to go ahead and clean this one off here real quick. Sometimes if your orchid was planted in sphagnum moss, it can be a little bit difficult to tell what is the root and what is the moss. Sometimes that may look like a root. So just give it a gentle tug. If it comes off, it's the moss. If it doesn't come off, it's probably part of the root, but the roots are pretty tough. So that's it. You want it to be pretty bare. So we're going to go ahead and take those. We'll move this stuff out of the way. So I don't want to get too heavy into different types of pots and different types of vessels. Typically we recommend that for moderately experienced or inexperienced jewel orchid keepers to stay away from the terracotta, because it requires just a little bit higher of an experience level. You do need to water it a little bit more often, and just kind of be able to keep an eye on the moisture level overall. Your water is going to evaporate a little bit faster out of the media in terracotta because it's so porous. So typically you'd want to go with something that's glazed. These guys are actually going to get potted down a size, but it's okay to go either way so long as your plant fits. Like I said, these never will develop very intricate root systems, so you don't have to worry about them ever being under potted. If the actual plant seems to outgrow and significantly overflow the pot, then it's probably time to go up. Other than that, most jewel orchids can spend just about their entire lives in the same pot. And it's, some of it just has to do with your taste, just aesthetically, what you like. So I'm just going to size these really quick. I'm going to make sure that they do fit. This one looks good. And this one's got some little babies on it there, so it might be a little bit more wild, but it looks like that one's going to fit just fine as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I've got our small bucket that I've poured some of the Terrae mix in there. And I like to use a smaller container. So we're just going to use a little pot here. You can use whatever works for you. And I'm going to just dip it in. And I'm going to put about 1/4 inch of media in the bottom of this pot. You can do 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And that just gives you a little bit of a buffer before the roots hit the bottom of the pot. And now we're going to place our plants. And if you're doing multiple plants in one pot, this can be a little bit tricky to do by hand. There's a few different methods that you can use. Some people prefer to use things like chopsticks or even planting sticks to brace the plant while you're pouring the soil in. I typically just put it where I want it and then put the soil in around it, and that seems to work really well for me. But that's kind of personal preference. So just take your time. You know, you gotta remember that you're kind of going for the aesthetic of the plant, how it's going to look after it's done. So you want to make sure that things are placed the way that you want them. After you have the plants in the pot, go ahead and hold them how you want them. Just kind of brace them up. And then you're going to take a little bit more of the media. I'll show you what this looks like here. You can kind of see it's just the plants and the roots in there, just gently placed. And again, you're going to want to hold them in the direction that you want the final product to be. So you kind of want that one a little bit more straight up if possible. And then we're just going to slowly tap the soil in. Sometimes I like to give it a couple pats on the table there. That's going to help settle the soil in around the roots and stems. And we want to do this until we reach the desired soil level. And a lot of people ask how much of the stem can be buried when it comes to jewel orchids. And it's actually quite a bit. What I have found is that if you've got a jewel orchid with just a single stem like this, you want anything that does not have a root node on it to be above the soil. So you can see here, that's the beginning of a root. So you want that to be below the soil, and everything from there up above the soil. Situations like this is a baby. This is the one that's coming off the parent plant there. Just about this whole thing right here can be under the soil. You can see that the first root node that's coming out there is actually way up here. So we're just going to kind of work this guy down in so he's a little bit lower. And if you've got ones that are really long like this and you want to bury that, you can bury it about 1/4 inch, and what that's going to do is that's going to promote new growth or new babies. It will cause them to divide like that and get smaller ones on it. Those can always be divided off the mother plant for future potting if you'd like. So, and then again, I'm just going to make sure that I've got everything positioned the way that I want it. I'm just going to tap a little bit. So this media does ship pretty moist, so it's very, very easy to work with. And because of the size and the texture and everything, it should just kind of fall in around the roots. So I'm just going to give it a couple more taps there, make sure that it's nice and settled. And we're just going to give it one last little bit there. All right, it's looking really good. And now we're going to water. So I'm just going to go grab the watering can. I'll be right back. All right, now to water. A lot of the times, the first time that you water after repotting, and this goes for most plants, but it's particularly true with these guys if you're using this media. The first time you water, it's going to help it settle the media down around those roots. So I'm going to give it a few more pats, and then I'm just going to gently spray. And you can notice I went ahead and filled this all the way to the top of the pot. And this should help it kind of settle down. And it's usually not much. Sometimes after you've watered the first time, you've got to put just a little bit more media on top because it's settled down. This one's looking pretty good though. And the first time you water, go ahead and water until the water runs through. And that's just going to make sure that you've got a nice even moisture to start with in your pot. All right, we do have water draining through already. It's one of my favorite things about this media is it's pretty foolproof when it comes to overwatering. All right, and that's it. And we have a new potted Jewel Orchid there. So if you have any other questions, feel free to comment at the bottom of this video, and we hope you've enjoyed. Thank you.